Hey, it's Kaero. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Mono Red Aggro. Now, Mono Red Aggro is typically shunned by a lot of Magic players that, think that they're really good and they're above playing Mono Red Aggro, and it's thought of as sort of a deck that doesn't require any skill whatsoever. But I'm here to tell you that if you want to play Mono Red Aggro competitively, there is a huge difference between playing Mono Red optimally and just playing Mono Red and getting lucky, and maybe your opponent has a bad draw and you're just able to burn them down really easily. So today, we're going to go through some of those decisions and key points during this matchup to explain how to play Mono Red optimally and get the most out of every single turn like Red wants to do. So we're going to pause right here. Our opponent led off with a blue-black dual land that's untapped, meaning they could have a cut down, they could have a fading hope, they could have any one of little interaction spells that bounce. So we have two choices really. We have Monstrous Rage, which only comes in if we have a creature, which is an aura. Or we have Voldair and Epicure, or we have Kumano Faces Kakazan. In this point, we're going to elect to play Kumano Faces Kakazan because we do want that turn 2 +1/+1 counter permanently on our next creature. Whether that's Voldair and Epicure, that's not really a awesome turn 2 play, but we could draw a 2-drop, or we could come in with one of our Shivan Devastators as a 2/2 flyer. One of the most important things you can do playing Magic the Gathering is to figure out your turn order. Obviously, you want to know what you're going to do, what's your plan, but finding out the opponent's plan is just as important. So we see that they played an Otherworldly Gaze here. So what does that tell us? That tells us that they most likely don't care if they put one card into the graveyard. They're probably going to try to reanimate it back. Why would they play a Surveil card when they could just easily play something that lets them scry and draw a card for 1 mana? So we see here that our Kumano Faces Kakazan resolves. So the next step is to choose between Shivan Devastator as a 2/2 flyer or Voldair and Epicure. Probably going to go Devastator route, but then we draw a 2-drop Charming Scoundrel. And since they only have 1 mana and most counter spells cost 2, we're going to go ahead and drop this. Now I'm making a decision here to create a treasure token because I know we're going to need it to get these Devastators to be very massive, and I was thinking if they remove this, then at least we have something to show for it. So we have a treasure token. If we went Wicked Roll route, I know that if they cut it down or they bounce it or whatever, we're just out all that extra value. So at least now we have a treasure to pump up our future creatures. So we have a lot of different options here. So far, we know that they run cut downs. We know that they run Otherworldly Gazes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to drop our weakest creature first, meaning the Voldair and Epicure. Our 2/2 comes into the battlefield. We're going to see what they do, if they react to that at all. If they counter it, I mean, that's bait to counter, right? Because we don't care that much about the Epicure. And then we're going to drop the Phoenix Chick, holding up 1 mana for the Monstrous Rage, trying to bait out a cut down. So we'll go in, we'll attack. And sure enough, we see the cut down come down. We go Monstrous Rage to buff that creature beyond the 5 power toughness combination stat line. So they fizzle their cut down and we get some damage in here. Now, if we would have played that Monstrous Rage first, it would be very easy for them to respond with a cut down and nullify our spell before it even took place. But since we wait for the last possible second, they play their cut down early and then we fizzle their spell. So here we're met with a Tithing Blade. This is 2 mana artifact. When it comes in, we have to sacrifice a creature. We have 3 creatures to sacrifice. One has a monstrous roll on it that we don't want to get rid of. One's a 1/1, and one is a 1/1 flyer. But if we attack with a certain amount of creatures, we can pay 2 mana and bring it back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So the name of the game here is sacrificing the creature that you can bring back. So we're going to go ahead and sacrifice our Phoenix Chick. So speaking of knowing what your opponent's doing, this Founding the Third Path is very interesting. So they don't have any other cards in hand, so step 1 is straight out of the process. But they could have immediately gone to read ahead on turn 3, played one of their removal spells from their graveyard and got rid of our 1/1. But their ultimate plan here is to mill some cards, get some big beast back into the field. And that's been confirmed by what they chose here in the Founding the Third Path. They're going for the Hail Mary win. So at this point, we do have 2 Shivan Devastators in hand that we can play as 3/3s, including our treasure token. If we draw another mana, that's another 3/3 the next turn, but we do draw a Charming Scoundrel here. And the reason I play Charming Scoundrel, even though they're tapped out and they can't remove anything, and we go Wicked Roll here, for that reason, because we have Invasion of Tarkir in this deck. And we choose to bring back the Phoenix Chick as a 2/2 using that treasure token. Now, Invasion of Tarkir is a battle spell from March of the Machine that does 2 damage to any target, but then it depends on how many dragons you have in your hand that can do extra damage. So at this point, if we draw that, we want to have the Shivan Devastators in hand as opposed to the Charming Scoundrel. So right here, they're stuck between a rock and the hard place with the Founding and the Third Path. They can grab a cut down. They don't really have enough to do a Bitter Triumph and lose some life. So they'll go a cut down, but they don't really want to cut down the Phoenix Chick because they've seen that come back when we attack with 3 creatures. So they're going to cut down the one with the Wicked Roll on it, therefore losing them another life and putting them in Lightning Strike range. So we're in a pretty good spot here. And we get the concede. So there were a lot of different points in this game where we could have made different decisions that would have been suboptimal, whether that's sacrificing something other than the Phoenix Chick so that way we didn't have the mana to bring it back, whether that's playing one of our Shivan Devastators early in case we drew an Invasion of Tarkir that wouldn't get us that extra damage, or early on in the game playing that Monstrous Rage too early so they can cut it down before it resolves and get rid of one of our creatures, instead of being able to negate one of their cut downs by playing a Monstrous Rage after therefore our resolves first, or trying to go too hard with the Charming Scoundrel, creating a Wicked Roll on something that's getting blown out instead of taking that treasure token, because that treasure token was what allowed us to bring that Phoenix Chick back. So these are all decisions that you make throughout the game that really can, in very close games and games in general, just make sure and make the difference between win or lose. So don't let anybody tell you that mono red is not a complex deck. It is not the most complex deck, but these little minute decisions, the timing on them and everything, and these little choices really matter. In making these videos, I try to bring the information as clearly and concisely as possible, and if you want that to translate over to a website where you can get the latest MTG news without all the fluff, check out spindown.gg, where they bring you all the relevant information without muddying up your timeline. So check them out. Thank you very much for checking out this video. Hit that thumbs up if you liked it, consider subscribing, and please share it with friends, and I will see you next time, hopefully.